Welcome back to Voices in Health and Wellness. This is the podcast where we sit down with forward-thinking practitioners, coaches and clinicians to explore what's really shaping the future of well-being from the inside out. Today I'm joined by Jonny Baker, a therapist, coach and integrative practitioner whose work lives at the intersection of mental health, neuroscience and lasting behavioural change. Jonny runs Change Feels Good, a practice that blends integrative hypnotherapy, coaching, guided meditation and training for mental well-being. His approach is rooted in deep psychological insight, but delivered in a way that feels practical, accessible, and grounded in real-world transformation. Jonny, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you very much. What an introduction. Wow.
No worries. Hopefully it was accurate.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was way better than I could have put it. Yeah, great.
Well, maybe you can start at the top. Could you perhaps talk a little bit about your journey and how you've ended up doing what you do?
Sure. So about 19 years ago, I initially did, I went to art college and did lots of art and got into perception and stuff. And off the back of that, I thought, I don't want to be a graphic designer, which is what I was headed towards. I was really interested in hypnosis. So I immediately sort of enrolled on a hypnotherapy course. Well, not just hypnosis, but helping people as well. Hence hypnotherapy rather than just stage hypnosis or something like that. And then through that, I got into neuro-linguistic programming and thought, oh, this is really an interesting way of expanding some of the principles of hypnosis into many different areas, including the conversation, being more conversational. So obviously sort of taking Ericksonian hypnosis to, not in another direction, but maybe extending some of the work that he did. And applying it to other things I was interested in doing, like training people, being on stage, as it were, is a really interesting application of NLP, and it's since kind of made its way into so many different areas. Really interesting. And then I started practicing, and that was that was in Kent, sort of where I grew up, East Kent, and did that for many years, and really just immediately knew that I'd found my calling, and I just got a hell of a lot from working with clients, and was very fortunate, very pleased that I was getting some good results with them as well. And if we come up to around 2021, so the COVID lockdowns had sort of more or less passed, but through that process, obviously, I got used to working online. I had done a little bit of online work before then, but obviously all my work went online. And at that point, I was living in London with my wife, and we thought, okay, she's Italian, and that gave us the opportunity of getting out of London. Not that it's a bad place, because we loved living there, but it is an expensive place. And we moved to Milan, and I just this is where I am now, and just sort of continued from there. I'm not in a prison cell, although it might look like I am. We've just literally moved house, and we haven't really got anything, as you can see, on the walls. But still in the Milan area. Yeah, still working online, and I work with UK clients. Something I really, I did research, but I didn't fully anticipate is the fact that I can only work online. I can't work as a hypnotherapist with clients in Italy, although I can do training work and I can do coaching. For that reason, I've now enrolled. I've been doing this course a couple of years now. I'm doing a course that will up-level my qualification, so I can work as a psychotherapist. Because in Europe, you have to be a psychotherapist to be a hypnotherapist.
Interesting.
So it's great. I mean, obviously I'm doing it as a means to an end, but it's just a wonderful opportunity for me to learn more, to grow as a practitioner, as a person, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm getting a lot out of it, and it's sort of, what I've learned already is I'm beginning to apply some of the principles, and I'm definitely beginning to see that give names to some of the things that I'd developed over the years. Because obviously I'd learned hypnotherapy, but from practicing with clients so much, I'd sort of learned my own methods and my own approaches, and I'm beginning to see, okay, so there's a little bit of, there's a lot of person-centered work in the stuff I'm doing here. There's a lot of gestalt here, and there's some schema therapy here or there, and Adlerian approaches in other things that I do. So that brings me up to now and kind of what I'm doing here. Basically,
really helpful to hear the inspiration, the background for the journey as to how you got what you're doing. So how would you describe the kind of transformation your clients are usually seeking when they come to see you?
Well, I have so most of my clients are people about anxiety. Most of my clients have anxiety, want to work with anxiety, and within that category is a subcategory of health anxiety and death anxiety. And I'm not really sure. I think I started to notice that I was getting more clients of that with those kind of issues, and also my interest in those areas was beginning to grow as well. So I'm not sure how it happened, but it did begin to happen. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to focus on this niche, and then of course that I'm getting more and more clients with these kind of issues coming up as well. And yes, and I'm beginning to sort of I forgot to mention transpersonal therapy, which is something that I'm becoming more and more interested in as well. And exposure therapy, which I suppose is an approach that fits into many other different approaches, but it's traditionally used for phobias. If, say, for example, someone has a phobia of spiders, then you might begin by just talking about spiders a little bit, and maybe you can help someone picture a spider in their mind, and very gradually you can, look at a book, look at a drawing, or draw a picture of one, or watch a video, and then, build up to the point where you're holding one in your hand, for example. So it's really a very simple process of whatever it is that brings up a sense of fear or discomfort in you, just having a relationship with that, whatever it may be, whether it's a physical object or a physical life form, or if it's a thought or a feeling. It's the same principle, and I find it very effective just applying that principle to whatever it is that people are anxious about. And sometimes that could be, death. It could be a relationship they're having with, a difficult relationship with someone. It could be the sense that maybe as a child they didn't really receive the attention or affection that they needed, or they had a sense of abandonment, and just getting familiar with and having contact with those kind of emotions that are difficult and uncomfortable. Obviously, again, at the rate and speed that they are capable of processing it, and no quicker than that. So it can take time and it can be quick, but that's one of the main ways that I work with people anyway. There are many different ways, but yeah.
Thank you. And what does a typical day or week look like at the moment? Are you mostly client facing, or how are you balancing the kind of the behind the scenes stuff that you have to do in terms of marketing and the business things of running this kind of clinic?
So that's a great question, and it varies from week to week. So I have this course that I'm doing, and sometimes that, there might be weeks where I'm doing, I guess, 60 or 70% of my work is the course, and others where it's maybe nothing, actually, depending on what's necessary. Apart from that, I will be seeing clients, I guess, between 1 and 6 per day. And the rest of the time is marketing, is writing notes, strategizing, things like that. So that gives you kind of a rough idea of my balance in that respect. I have, until recently, I suppose, I've been a very reluctant marketer, which is not very helpful. But it is, I have accepted that it's something that is necessary, and I've begun to actually enjoy some of it as well. I've tried a lot of different things, and a lot of different things have just seemed to have absolutely no effect at all. But what I have found to be effective is me, in a way. Simple messages are obviously very effective, but because of what I do, the therapeutic relationship is such an important thing that people need to understand what it's like to have a conversation with me it's not an everyday conversation. You wouldn't probably even talk about these things with your family or friends often. So I think people need to have a kind of impression of who I am and how I come across. So videos have worked better, audio recordings. I've got quite a lot of meditations that have been really helpful in my marketing. So they're great as standalone meditations. People enjoy them, and that's sort of, I do get a very small income from that as well. Mm-hmm. On Insight Timer, for example. That's mainly where most of them are. But it also gives me the option. So it also sends a few clients my way as well for one-to-one work. And again, doing live streams. So I was doing quite a lot of live streams, particularly on Insight Timer, and they were really effective. They were working really well. And maybe I'll do a podcast at some point as well. Who knows?
Well, you're very welcome to use this one for local promotion. I always think that podcasts are a good business card for what people do, because it's a very natural conversation. You're talking about your work and you're prioritizing your approach. So I think that always makes a very good marketing, and very happy for you to have this one afterwards, if that's helpful.
That's very helpful. Thank you so much, Andrew.
No worries. Are you seeing any shifts in the kinds of people that are reaching out to you? I know you've mentioned the focus of the problems that you're dealing with, but is there anything about the kinds of people that are reaching out?
That's a good question. So there is simply through doing this psychotherapy course, I have had to change who I'm working with. So I used to work with a reasonable amount of children and young people, but mainly adolescents. And I can't do that anymore. Not through hypnotherapy anyway, or psychotherapy. So simply through necessity, I'm only working with adults now, from now on, with that hat on, with my therapy hat on. But I don't know really if there's a type. I suppose most of my clients tend to be between 20 and 40. I know that's quite a big range, and most tend to be female, but I'm not sure if that's because females tend to be more ready to talk about their emotions, and that's really an important part of what I do. Although it's it would be probably better if men did that more. At the moment, at least, it's mainly women who do that, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I know that, you know, a lot of the people that I do work with are through word of mouth, through recommendation. But yeah, it's a very difficult thing to put my finger on, really. But yeah, I say relatively young people who I say maybe like 70% female to 30% male, who have anxiety, and that could be students, young professionals. I have to say, actually, thinking about it now, like there do tend to be slightly more creative people, and that could be because some of my there are certain people I've worked with who are just an absolute godsend in terms of marketing, because they are really having a lot of conversations with people they meet and recommending me, and I'm just eternally grateful to those people. And maybe because of the few of those people who tend to do that are creative people, work in creative industries, that I tend to be getting more creative people coming my way, or because some of the work, particularly hypnosis works better if you're creative. NLP works better if you're creative. Any kind of visualizing internal representations, these things, you know, I definitely work in other ways for people who are not in that, you know, don't have that strength. But yeah, so it could be that as well. But I certainly enjoy, you know, I think I'm, as a creative person myself, I think, yeah, there's something there. There's a playfulness that we can work through. And that's not to say that people who aren't naturally creative can't become more creative as well, but some people just are, and there seems to be a synergy there. Yeah.
Thank you. So we're talking about the people, but if you notice any shifts across the health and wellness space more generally, obviously you sit with your particular niche in the health and wellness space, but what are your observations about the health and wellness space more broadly?
I think therapy talking therapy is more accepted, this is a good thing, across the genders, actually. Yeah. I'm not sure why exactly, but I think, yeah, all sorts of things. It's in, you know, it's in the media. I think there's a TV show that people keep talking about that I still haven't watched, actually, that follows people through therapy, and I understand that's kind of brought a few people into the area that wouldn't otherwise be interested in it. Famous people talk about having therapy quite a lot. So certainly that's a big plus. And there are a lot of people who need it. You know, the world is such a strange place. Ever since COVID, it seems to me to very much, and I'm not sure how it's shifted exactly, but there's obviously social media, there's mobile phones, there's all sorts of things, and, you know, I think everybody's familiar with the effects that these things can have. I like it too. So I live in Italy, and Italian people are just really warm and welcoming and lovely people. But once you get in a car, it all changes, and yeah, and it's a dog eat dog world out there on the road, and kind of dangerous as well. You've got to be really have your wits about you, and expect that no one will give you any space. And yeah, so it's really it brings out the worst in people. Having that distance of being in a car and people having that anonymity kind of brings out something, let's say like a monster in people. And the same thing happens when you're online. You can hide behind a persona. You can hide behind your phone, and you can be rude, you can be angry, you can be all of these things that we keep a lid on when we're with people in person. So yeah, and obviously that has its effect on people, and that changes the landscape of the kind of people, the kind of problems that people have that come to therapy, and the kind of people that come to therapy as well. So we've got that to deal with, and then there's the polarism that's, let's say, partially informed by algorithms and who knows what forces, but it seems to be ramping up incrementally, and that is not good for our mental health. It has our amygdala constantly active, constantly firing, and not constantly, but to a greater extent is hijacking the rest of our attention, and it makes it raises our cortisol, and that has a huge impact mentally and physically. So there's a great need for both what you and I do, I think. There's a big crossover there, and I'm reminded of someone, the work of Ian McGilchrist, who I really respect, and his approach really applies to many other psychotherapeutic approaches as well. The idea that the world is the mentality of people is progressively becoming more and more left-brained, which has to do with categorization, differences, reducing concepts to things that are very maybe simple and easy to understand, but doesn't communicate nuance and connection. So the right brain is more about connection, more about the whole, understanding the whole of whatever it is that you're understanding, whether it's a person, whether it's a society, whether it's a concept, and relationality. And I think that's a really important aspect of it, the connectedness. It's also to do with becoming rather than an end result as well. And I think a lot of people come to see me and they're like, I want this end result, and very much focused on where they want to get to, which is great, and we should always have that. But living life for the process of living life, for the journey of living it, it brings us the most happiness and fulfillment, and also helps us to relax and helps us to approach life in a better way generally. And that is more of a right-brained activity. So what he's saying is not that you should just have half of your brain working. It should be led by the right brain, by that wholeness. And the left brain is much happier when it's following up and it's performing tasks that are informed by right brain activity, let's say. That's a real, I would say, there's a really good podcast with interviews with him if you want to learn more, Ian McGilchrist, or read his books. But anyway, yes, I think I went off a bit of tangent there. I'm not quite sure what the question was, but hopefully that answers the question.
It's all good. No, thank you. And you mentioned some trends, and you mentioned specifically things like social media and mental health awareness. Is those things changing how you do what you do? Obviously, it affects the people that are showing up to you and what they've been exposed to, but have you had to adapt to these kind of trends that you're seeing?
Yes. Well, certainly, working online, video calls, a little like this, that's I've had to adapt to that. It hasn't been too difficult. It's something that, research shows that it's equally as effective to work in this way than it is in person. There are some things that may be more effective because it's sort of more widely acceptable to be face to face, to sort of be really close so you can see people's facial expressions, understand emotion, perhaps in a better way than you might be able to if you're in a room with them in some ways, but you don't have the body language. So there's a trade-off there, I guess. Yeah. So adapting to that and then adapting to marketing through social media. It's like I say, I'm not really an expert in that, and it's not my greatest passion. But I love what I do, but I love what I do really, and my passion isn't in shouting about it. But obviously, it's a necessity, so I've got used to it. But it's difficult to in that area. It's difficult to be heard, to be seen, because I'm working online. I don't really have a geographical location. So most people who do what I do work in an area. They work with local clients in that area, and a lot of the directories that people would search for therapists are kind of geared towards that. And even social media is geared towards that as well. Google Maps geared towards that. So it is a little bit of that's a bit of an open question for me at the moment about how I haven't really fully grasped how to make that work better, but I'm trying various different things. I'm just doing the same things that I was doing before. But I think most of my clients do come from East Kent, where I was based, and London, simply because that's where my geographical location was. But even though I am kind of floating and I can work with anyone, certainly in the UK, but in other places in the world, some places in the world, depending on the law, I am still kind of rooted to Southeast England in a way, and that's fine. That's okay. But yeah, so it's a work in progress, I guess. I haven't got into TikTok. I know that things are getting shorter and shorter and shorter, videos and stuff. But also longer and longer and longer because people like podcasts, don't they? So I think I'm down with the longer stuff more than the shorter stuff, really. That's my cup of tea, I would say. So I veer towards that. But who knows? Maybe there's scope there for some, I don't know, some dancing videos or something.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously you are running a business. Thinking of it as a business, what's going really well for you right now?
It is my work with clients that's going really well for me. I think the course that I'm doing and applying the principles into that. I've recently done a case study which I've very meticulously analysed what I'm doing in the sessions and how the conversations are going, the impact that it's having, which I wouldn't normally do, and I don't think is a good idea to do consistently. And there's not time to do that. But doing it with a client, obviously they've given their consent for me to record, because I had to record a couple of the sessions and pick it all apart. That's really helped me a lot, actually. And listening to what you do is there's so much more that I had never realised that I was doing, things that not helpful that I've realised and I've changed, and other things that are helpful that I've expanded on. and ways I've realised I can integrate different approaches that would not have occurred to me as well. So it's a very helpful exercise, and I would say that's the thing that's working the best for me at the moment. Yeah, although I've got a chunk of this course that I'm doing at the moment, and I'm really looking forward to getting back into marketing. I've got a few more ideas about that, and I want to push forward with that as well, because I've had to leave it to the wayside in favour of my psychotherapy course for a little while. Yeah.
And on the flip side, is there anything that's been particularly frustrating, feels harder than it needs to, or any challenges you've had to overcome in doing your work recently?
Yeah, and I think it's simply, I mean, I suppose taking a hard look at myself and being critical of what I do in that case study has been difficult, but it's always the game of marketing for me. It always has been. I wouldn't want to predict my future, but that has been the hardest thing, and it's always been the hardest thing. I have to say, I have to be honest. For me, I think I know what works now, but it's finding the time to make that happen, integrating it into my week, and doing enough of it so that it gains more momentum. Those are my current challenges at the moment.
I'm thinking about if you had, for instance, a sudden influx of clients from the Kent region tomorrow, what part of the business would break first? And hopefully it won't be you.
When you say break, do you mean like collapse, like fall apart?
Which like what would be the weakest point of the system? If you had 50 enrollments, who knows, there'll be maybe thousands of people listening to this podcast. If they all telephone you tomorrow and say, I want to come and see you, what would happen?
What a wonderful problem to have. I simply wouldn't have the time to schedule it all. I have on my website, linked on my website, I use a calendar booking app, so I suppose they could do that. I generally I do always give people an initial inquiry introduction thing. And that I might be pushed for time to do that. I think I'd have to be really a lot more strict with that. Like over sometimes I give a little bit more time than I'm meant to in my sessions, and I'd have to be a bit more on point with that. I think I just need to hire someone to manage the inquiries more than anything else. Yeah.
And if you were to start from scratch tomorrow, obviously you've been on a long journey of discovery and learning. Is there anything that you would do differently if you were going to start again tomorrow with everything that you know from before?
Well, assuming I knew what my niche would be, I would immediately focus on a very narrow message in terms of this is what I do, talking directly to the people that are looking for my kind of help. Although it does take a while to understand what that can be, you do have to kind of work for a while before you really get that. So I would do that. I would be, I think, a lot more focused I would apply that to everything in building my website into the blogging, social media posts, videos, meditations, and not be distracted. So I do have tended to get distracted in terms of I'm really interested in this and I want to talk about this and that's cool. I think we should all do that to a certain extent, but maybe like 20-30%, and the rest of it should be this is the message, this is who needs to hear it. Repeat. I would do that, and I'm still trying to do that.
Got it.
Yeah.
And where are you looking to take things over the next 6 to 12 months or so with your business?
I simply want to work with more clients, and because I just love it. I love what I do. You know, there's still space for, you know, creating meditations, and I think that's something that I recommend to my clients as well. You know, in between sessions, listen to this meditation or that meditation. I enjoy that because I kind of make the music and everything, and I produce it myself. And training, I do like working with a group of people, a large group of people, applying the same principles and giving people a taster of what I do to the extent that it's possible in an environment like that. So yeah, and this kind of thing as well, you know, live streams or podcasts. So a bit of everything, but mainly one-to-one sitting and really connecting and really understanding people and really helping them to process difficult things and come out the other side smelling of roses.
On that note, Jonny, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's been really interesting hearing about you and your work and your development and where you're looking to take your business. So thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you for reaching out. It's been, it's been really nice. You're great at interviewing. It's really easy to talk to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.